Burgess here with Music Marketing TV. Today we're going to be looking at making some future bass style wobble chords. We're just going to be looking at wobble chords kind of in general, giving you the general scope for how to make these types of sounds. So we're going to be using Harmor for this, and the first thing we should do is get some inspiring chord to work with. So I'm going to go with a C major 7. And we are going to go ahead and take the middle two voices down a bit and the top voice down a bit. You know, just balance it a little bit. It's not going to have too big an impact with saw waves, but it may come in handy later, those sorts of decisions. All right, so first things first, we're going to want to bring up a bunch of copies of the voices. This is going to add that lush sound that you're so used to hearing. There's two ways to do it inside of Harmor. The first way is a chorus. This is less CPU intensive. We could dial this up to like 3, say. You get something like that. Maybe bring down the filter a bit for now. The next thing we could do is, instead of doing it through the chorus, you could use a unison. Unison is an additive method. It is a bit more CPU intensive. We're going to bring the pitch down for a second here. And I think we should mix the two methods. So we're going to go with a 2-voice unison, and then we're going to go with a 3-voice chorus. Maybe bring down the depth and the speed a little bit. This basically has how much of an impact the deviation happens between all the different voices. And so this just reduces that a little bit, because when we start doing more processing, those sorts of things can get in the way. What I am going to do, though, something kind of unique to Harmor, is I'm going to take this pitch. If we pump it all the way up, it's not going to sound very good. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to not create automation clip. We're going to edit the articulator. So it's an envelope control, basically a modulator. And so if you had another synth that you could set up modulators to go to stuff, this is what this is in Harmor. So we're going to go ahead and just modulate this down very quickly so that the beginning of the note has this sharp attack, but then it mellows out very quickly. Maybe not all the way. Maybe we stop at when it's right around here. And you get that nice glide in. So originally it sounds pretty like, ugh, but then when you do something like this, really adds a bit of life to the front of the chord. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get the wobble in there next. So to do this, there's two ways to do it, two main ways to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. We're going to come into the filter and we're going to go to Edit Articulator. Now, if I move this over, we actually have some nice visuals to see what's going on here. So the first way we have is we can see we're on the filter 1 frequency. And we're going to use an envelope first. So a lot of times you might use LFO. Envelopes and LFOs are really, really good depending on what you're aiming for. For the envelope, what's great about it is it's extremely consistent. So we could make some sort of a envelope like this, come up, come down, and come back. And right here, we'll make this the loop sustain. And over here, we'll make this the loop start. And then we'll go ahead, we'll turn it on. And let's go ahead, and it's off right now because it's not tempo sync. So let's tempo sync this and just move all the points over to their respective bits. And then we'll adjust this to be right here in the middle so it's symmetric. And from here, we can go ahead and we can begin to sort of style things up. I'm going to go and let's get rid of this point. Let's just come in right here and have this start from the beginning and the end. So now these are 8th notes. We could change the filter width, so this is a very short width. And we could bring this down a little bit further. And that's the open width. So you could automate this actually and do some cool stuff there. I believe this also has an articulator that you could use. Not everything has an articulator in Harmor. So I kind of like that right there. Now there's another way to do this that might come to mind, because what if we want to do something where we change the speed or do something like that? Well, you could come in and instead of doing it through an envelope, you can right click here or just click and go to LFO. And in LFO, you can click and set an LFO to do your dirty work for you. So we could have something start off soft and then it gets louder. And the speed we can adjust according to taste. And now for this, the way I like to do it, there's actually a couple ways. Some of them are very fancy. Is I'll take this, and unfortunately, I don't know of an articulator inside of Harmor. So the way I do it is I place down my chords, and then you can actually automate this. So we're going to right click it and go to create automation clip. And let's just say it's the same chord for 4 times. What the heck? And we want to do some sort of a motion that repeats on each one of them. So if you change one now, it'll change them all. So we could do something like this. And then maybe these two will be different chords. You could also, for example, make one of them unique. So we could make unique. And so these will still respond in global. So if you want to make adjustments to those. And on this one, we could have it do its own thing. So maybe it goes up and down and then comes up a little bit different. Maybe it slows back down. And of course, this with the speed things, you're going to have to spend time getting all those endpoints exactly where you want, getting the curves to exactly where you want to get your rhythm just right. And this is why sometimes I'll actually clone a patch, and some of them will be using the envelope method because that's, you draw the points in and it's going to be synced up every time. And other times I'll be using the LFO version and doing stuff that requires a little bit more finesse and might not be something I want to go exactly with the tempo. Maybe it slows down or speeds up, those kinds of motions. Let's go ahead and lose all this stuff for now. And we'll come in here. So we've already got a pretty solid sound. Let's bring the speed up a bit. I think it'd sound kind of cool with the higher speed. Oh, I think it went back to where it was. Whatever, this is fine. I like this speed as well. And what we're going to do is let's mess around with some different filters. So there's a bunch of low passes. Generally, you're going to want to stick with low pass. Others will work, but we've got a couple different ones here. Some of them are going to be a lot more resonancy, like that one. Let's try the leg low pass. And one thing that you could do that could be kind of cool is to have this sort of pitch band up every time a note hits. So for that, there's 2 ways we can actually do it inside of Harmor. We've got a frequency and we've got a detune. I'm going to go ahead and go to, we'll go with frequency. The frequency one's going to be a bit more stable, and we've got an articulator for this one. And what we'll do is we'll start out a little bit below, and then we'll come up to it. And we will see how much we need to go down for this to really be noticeable. Yeah, something like that. And then from here, we've already pretty much got our sound. We can take a lot of different routes from here. We could go after some timbral changes. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. We can come into the reverb, add a verb in, maybe bring the decay down a bit. And we could do some compression, probably a more aggressive one like burning, bring the mids up some. The lows, there's not really lows in this particular one. If you want to add some stuff down there, you could add a sub, which is what these are. They're different subharmonics. You can actually choose which ones according to these settings right here. But yeah, tons and tons of control. Maybe bring up the highs and maybe bring down the mids. Like, there's so many versions of this sound floating around now. It's pretty crazy. We could add a delay. Typically, you're going to want to do this on stuff that's synced up. So this might make a little bit more sense to automate on and off. So you could automate this at the ends of phrases. So for example, you could go for one phrase, maybe you have another one. Maybe there's some melody or something right here. And what you could do is you could create an automation clip, and I right click and hit A. I actually almost don't remember where some of the things on this menu are because you see the A is underlined. So if that menu's open, you can just hit A, it'll create an automation clip. So we're going to go ahead and automate it on like right here at the end. Maybe just on this last bar, let it ring out. And then when the sound hits again, we'll slam it off. So on, so forth. And right here, now the position of the delay, let's bring the feedback up a little bit, bring the filter down on both of these. At this point, always kind of worth experimenting with moving the frequency globally. So I'm going to automate this as a global setting and have it open up as the patch continues on. Maybe we'll keep it a lot lower and only open it up a bit since we are pushing pretty hard with the LFO. And another way to do this is we could just come into the LFO and we could automate the amount that the LFO works. So to do that, you're going to automate this guy right here. So we're going to click create automation clip. Whoops, as you can see right there, wrong button. And we can just bring this down and up. I believe down is actually the square side. So this is going to mellow out the wrong way. So let's do something like this. And we're going to want to be this sort of more aggressive curve. And here we've got our filter automation. We'll move this around. And then once we have these figured out, because you only kind of have to figure them out one time, and then you can just steal the values for later. And then we can begin to pick different chords. Maybe this one right here, we'll make it unique. And we'll come in and we'll change this to a G. So I put the G at the end, the G chord, and we'll move this over. You know, away you go. You begin to pick chords, figure out things, add in melodies and whatnot. But we've got a very compelling sound. Pretty easy, couple steps. A couple of these steps a little more advanced. You know, we're adding in some color. Something that can be kind of fun to also mess with is the tension and the skew that is in here. Check this out. And these are all automatable, so you could add in these moments during your track. Generally, you're going to want to pick like something that's really solid for a bit and a really compelling sound, and then as it goes, you add in stuff like this for moments that you want to be a little bit more different or pop out, the ear candy stuff. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.